r/askreddit. What's the most high-risk, low-reward thing you've ever done? I once followed a young homeless man I just met because he wanted to show me where he was staying. It was nighttime and he invited me down into a dip in the trees. We walked through a dark section of the forest, then he showed me some rocks and a small cave with a couple of beds set up. Then we left. I literally followed a stranger into the dark woods because of curiosity? Suicidality? I will never know. I once climbed an old truss bridge to get some neat pictures of myself. I climbed under it and sat on the beams beneath the bridge. I climbed the very top. I hung off the edge of the bridge above several rocks. Once I got done and showed the pictures to my friends, and they said it sucked. Walking into my house as a confident 15-year-old with a cigarette in my mouth, telling my dad things were going to change around here. I copied this from a skit from a Lee Evans concert I had just watched with a friend. Thinking it was a good idea, I thought of doing it to my dad, a merchant seaman of considerable years and experience. A hard man, basically. You either liked it or not. No middle ground with him. I didn't take into account that he hadn't seen this particular concert and for all intents and purposes, does not do funny. The hit I took that day forever changed me as a man, as it's the best I've had yet. So yes, things changed. I never tried anything that foolhardy again. I still get ringing in my right ear and never ever told my mom because I fear her more. I can still feel my dad's handprint on my face to this day. Climbing up a water tower when drunk to find a friend. Turns out the said friend was not even lost. He was yelling at me from the base of the tower. Once my mom started counting backwards from 5, and I started counting down from 3. She stares daggers at me and asked what I was counting for. I said that's how much time she has to stop pretending she was going to do something when she got to 0. My spirit lives on to warn others of my misfortune. I sent my boss a glitter bomb, never told anyone who sent it. The whole organization, thousands of people, know it happened. Boss flipped out when glitter went everywhere. I'll never tell anyone. No one likes this boss. I actually accidentally walked into the boss's office the second after it was opened by accident. Glitter everywhere, all over them, a huge pile on their desk, and scattered around the computer, keyboard, their hair, the carpet. They were mad, and I had to stand there and wait for the reaction, which was a nuclear meltdown. They tried everything to figure it out. The company is great, and they will not disclose it, and everyone was questioned. In the end, everyone just went about their business, and the boss looked bad for blowing it out of proportion, trying to rally their bosses to find me out. I was terrified I'd be found out and fired. This was a very long time ago, and I no longer work for the organization. They are no longer with the company. In a strange twist, the boss was removed from her position for being a monster. I was in a band in high school. I had a friend from middle school that was also involved in athletics at the time, and the two of us were outcasts among the greater band nerd population and often got talked down to, which even our instructor would join in on from time to time. One day, when we had a substitute in, and he had the class watch the typical BS Mozart movie from the 80s again, I found a mega bag of zip ties and convinced my buddy to help me flip every student's backpack, zip tie the bags closed, and then zip tie the bags into the instrument lockers while everyone watched the movie. If we got caught and reported, the instructor 100% would have suspended us. So we were on extra edge, and right as we were wrapping up, the substitute locked eyes with us from across the room and realized what was going on and decided to pretend nothing happened as we completed the mission right on time. The class was very angry as the lights flicked on and they saw what had unfolded. The substitute came back for a class later that year and talked to us saying he had to actively try not to lose his stuff when he saw what was going on. I effing love you, Mr. Hudson. I stole every wheel off the chairs in my high school's computer lab as a joke during a 20-minute break. I still have one of them. Probably could have gotten expelled just for a slightly funny joke and a useless chair wheel. I skipped class after a standardized test. Literally, the afternoon teachers were showing movies and doing nothing, and I decided it was smart to get in-school suspension to sit behind a warehouse and nap with my dear old friend. Whilst building a house, the second floor had an I-beam that extended into nowhere that needed to be painted with rust protection paint. The floor had not been installed yet, and the joists were still going in. To save time, I shimmied out to the end of the beam and started painting. Every breath of wind made the whole thing sway. Just my movements made it wiggle a fair bit. Nearly took a 6-meter swan dive to a concrete floor about 12 times. I could have painted it after the floor was in, but that would mean laying down drop sheets and lots of messing around. Should have waited. It was a totally stupid thing to do. Snuck a girl over and had unprotected sex while my parents were home. Got syphilis at 17. I used to dive in ponds at golf courses to collect the lost golf balls. We clean and sort them to sell them back to the courses. It's unbelievable just how many snakes, alligators, and leeches live in those things. I made less than minimum wage and had countless close calls with critters. However, the most dangerous creatures on golf courses are old people. They do not give a fudge if you're working. They will absolutely send balls of hard plastic hurtling at your head at 50 miles per hour without a second thought. Then get mad when their ball hit your tank or cart and split open. Then demanded you hand over some of your recovered balls in compensation. My friends and I used to target and steal those signs that said, if you are caught stealing, you will be prosecuted. Many illegal things were done, and many hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff were ignored to steal those increasingly difficult to obtain paper signs. I had a major gambling addiction at 19. I saved $1,600 so that I and my family could put a deposit down on a rental home. We were getting evicted out of our apartment the next day. We had the move all set up and ready to go in the morning. I just had to pay the deposit and we would finally have a nicer place to live. At about 2 a.m. on the night before the big move, I decided to go to the casino. Completely effing stupid move. I ended up losing my $40 that I went in there with. And then went to the ATM. I pulled out 100 from the 1600. Lost it. I pulled out another 100 to try win back the first 100. Lost it again. Another 100. Lost it. Did this 15 effing times. I have less than 100 in my checking account. It's now 6 a.m. I am completely effed. My entire family is going to be homeless because of me. So I figured, F it, if my entire life is ruined, I have no use for the last bit of money in my account. What's another spin on the slot gonna do? Well, when I sat down for the final time at the machine, I win $800 on the first spin. A couple of spins later, I win another $800 jackpot. I won back all of my $1,600, immediately cashed in my tickets and got the F up out of there. I'm 25 now and haven't been back to a casino since that night. My friends and I used to break into expensive-looking houses and use their showers. This was in the late 90s when ridiculous showers were in vogue, and we wanted to know if they were actually any good, and for the most part, they were not. We never stole anything. We brought our own towels and toiletries. We were very careful about who we hit and made sure they had set schedules and no children or pets. The reward was a crappy shower. We risked jail time. I decided to see how fast I could get up to a nearby neighborhood road, driving my mother's car no less. Got up to 80 miles per hour in around 6 seconds, I think, and by the time I realized I should be slowing down, the tires were screeching as I tried to stay on the road. It was a mostly straight road that curved near the end, leading to a four-way stop. I got up to 80 right where the road began to curve, and as I was turning, I was going so fast that I went over into the other lane just a foot or two from going over the curb. Slowed down and brought the car to a stop at the intersection, and my family member sitting in the passenger seat looked over at me as if he had just crapped the life right out of himself. I was 19 at the time and got my license that same summer. My passenger was 16. I've never had such a powerful moment of instant regret after that day. I didn't feel cool at all. I could have killed a pedestrian, a child, or myself and my family member. That was the day I truly learned that I could lose my life, and have respected all traffic laws since. I'm only glad that we came out completely unharmed. I told my mom that my dad was working outside, and not the truth of him tearing out a wall because he decided a sliding door would be pretty. He did not get it done before she got home. Broke into an abandoned mental hospital on cocaine with a bunch of people I mostly didn't even like in college. Technically, I got something out of it, a door number from one of the rooms. Somehow, my cocaine-fueled brain thought that it would somehow make me haunted. I passed off to someone else at the first opportunity. Going to work every day and work in close proximity to dozens of people during a pandemic for less than $500 a week. It's really sad to see how many people are in the same situation. It's scary when you feel like you're not only playing Russian roulette with your life, but also the lives of family members who can stay at home. In my case, that would be my wife. I got hit by a car and broke 2 bones in my wrist. I was on my bike and the girl who hit me was a new driver. I didn't feel like messing up her record over a small mistake and making her insurance rates skyrocket. I didn't know what was messed up initially, but I just didn't want to make it worse for her. I was barely hit. I basically just fell straight sideways on my wrist. Granted, if my bike was busted, I probably would have gone after her because that was how I got to school and around everywhere. I was a free intern for a flower shop. One day, there was a shady person walking in the store basement. Somebody said he stole something from the shop and fled to the basement. The shop was in an apartment building, street level, and the basement led to all over the building. So they said to me, a 16-year-old girl, to go to the basement to check the situation out. Well, I was young and dumb and went. Thank God I found no one. I was working as a chef in a gourmet bar, and I'd become somewhat of a teacher's pet in the form of my manager's favorite employee because I was never late and covered shifts. I didn't do this for his sake. I wanted more money. A new guy started and he was just awful. Only got 2 weeks into the job before almost being sacked. But I wanted to teach him the ways. Anyway, one day he carelessly left a cloth on an open flame during prep in the morning of Valentine's Day, our biggest revenue generator, and the fire ravaged through about 1/4 of the kitchen, including the stock, the microwaves, the cooker, and the vegetable preparation area. And for some effing reason, I said it was my fault when the manager was on the warpath, thinking the new guy would be saved, and I'd just take a humongous bollocking for being stupid, and all would be fine eventually. Nope, I got sacked. He threw me out. Sneaking into my parents' room at night while they were sleeping to use the ensuite as it was more comfortable than the shared bathroom. It took ages as I slowly opened the door and crept across the room too, all for a cozier poop. Thinking back now, that was madness. When I did get caught eventually, my dad screamed, "WTF are you doing in here at this hour?" And when the answer was to use that bathroom instead of the other bathroom, he just about lost his mind. I was stationed at Guantanamo Bay, worked exterior security, nothing in the facility itself. It's actually a pretty laid-back place to work. Anyhow, there's a bunch of different beaches we could swim at, and I and a few others thought it would be fun to swim down around the fences and snap some pictures on Cuba's side. Turns out they really didn't like that. They didn't approach us, but there was an announcement made that doing such was highly illegal. They shut down the adjoining beaches and they demanded we come forward. We never did and they never figured it out. But yeah, we basically risked an international incident for a couple of pictures. Stupidest thing I've ever done. Hope you guys like this one. If you have any suggestions on some stories you want to hear, just leave it in the comments. I'll have a new video out tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.